Gene, is it fair to say that Samara Weaving is a friend of the show? Could I say that?
We've looked at a lot of Samara Weaving movies, and for good reason. She's does a lot of horror, and usually I'm going to say the word usually they're okay.
Right, and
Like Ready or Not is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I mean, it just rocks.
Well, and
on many levels.
Calling her a friend of the show doesn't mean she knows who we are or she's ever watched us or listened to us. But it does fit in with the delusional aspect of the movie we're talking about today, which is Borderline.
Borderline's, and delusional all the way.
And I was disappointed when I saw that it was released on streaming as well as the same day it was released in the theaters. That sometimes is not a good sign. But let's get right in. Gene, where are you at with Borderline?
Well, first of all, it's kind of weird. We've had our tall friend Scott the last few weeks, and now's not here, so it's like this is empty space.
Yeah.
Whatever. Roger. I guess, I don't know. It's just like, so this movie on its face should have a lot of things going for it. I caught Margot Robbie as like in the producer credits, and we all know and love Margot Robbie, right? And definitely knows how to make movies that are great. And the guy who wrote Cocaine Bear, I guess, he wrote and directed this thing. And Cocaine Bear was okay. It had its great moments. Some parts were just ripping funny, and then other parts were just like it's kind of stalled out. Like, you remember when they were on the roof, and they were kind of like, it's like, what's going on there?
Right.
So
needed more Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's a good segue into this, because I just got to say it. This movie, sorry, Samara Weaving, this movie just sucks. I hated this movie. My wife and I think it was Tuesday night, we were watching this together, and we made it through about halfway, and we looked at each other, and we just said, and we just turned it off. I was like, we're done. It's over. It's unwatchable on really any levels, and yeah, I despise this movie. I do not like this movie.
Please tell me you finished the film at some point, though.
Yeah, I went back and finished the film, but when I finished it, I was just like fast forwarding through it, and it's just. It violates so many of, I think, core movie making principles that, we could talk about that if you want. But
please go into it.
Like right now?
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, like it's one of the reasons why I just don't like, I'm gonna say it again, I don't like that movie, that space thing,
Event Horizon?
Event Horizon, thank you so much.
One of the great movies?
No. Because you have to have people acting like people. You have to, like, astronauts need to act like astronauts. The other day I was watching End of Watch, and the movie's great. It's got two strong actors, and they're policemen, and they act like policemen. They do policeman things. It makes the show believable. It draws you in as the viewer. But here at the very get-go, you have a crazy guy going to he's kind of like he's in love with this actress, right? So he goes to her house. There's a bodyguard. There's a guard there, but this bodyguard doesn't act like a bodyguard at all. He's very compliant. He's not believable on any level. And so from the very get-go, this movie is just not believable. You're not believing the characters. I mean, you believe in the psycho dude because he's a psycho guy, but then all the other characters in the movie are they're kind of flat, and you don't like the psycho character because it's psycho, but then you don't really believe or like any of the characters in the movie. Well, what's the point here? Why are you watching it?
Well, and Gene is right about the opening scene, because it is, I agree, it was the wrong way to open this movie.
Yeah.
And it goes on for about 5 minutes. And it is this interplay between the Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son, playing a crazy guy, and this security guard. And it's set up to where this guy has been coming to Samara Weaving's house regularly. Right?
And he's actually got inside.
Right. And so there is no way this interplay between those two characters would be occurring on any level. The cops would immediately be coming. That guy would have had a restraining order against him. And
he would have been arrested. And
because the movie is dealing with a very serious subject matter, celebrity stalking or just stalking in general, as well as untreated mental health issues. And that opening scene is really off-putting. So I'm in total agreement there. I didn't hate this movie, and so we'll have to get into that a little bit. But Gene, please continue about your hate of this film.
Yeah, another thing about that beginning, it seemed to last a lot longer than 5 minutes, and it just seemed to. It's not the way you start a movie. It's just isn't. You start a movie by you grab you grab your attention. This movie doesn't do that at all, And then the psychopathic guy, he pulls out a knife, pretends to put it to his throat. And then the security guard, to try to get him to do what he wants, the crazy guy asks for a hug, and he goes up and hugs him. Well, the security guy, that he has a knife, and then you're physically actually touching him. And in such a way that you're now vulnerable. And of course, what does he do? The crazy guy stabs him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the movie doesn't really get any better from that, So, I mean, yeah. And it just, I think, in a little bit like Cocaine Bear, what we brought out is that the movie needs to have the Cocaine Bear in it all the time. The strongest parts of that movie were when there was the bear.
Right.
Like I remember when the guys they were in some kind of like hut or something, and they open a door, and there's some dude's head in a bucket. Is that right? And then in the shadows the bear comes out of the shadows.
Right.
That's great stuff. Because you were on the bear. But here, Samara Weaving is in the movie, and she is almost like the supporting character. You don't really see her that much, and as the movie plays out, you spend a lot of time with this big guy who kidnaps the guard's family,
right?
Which is, why are we even there? So it's because you're not focusing on the main characters of the movie. I mean, this is a Samara Weaving movie. The main focus of this movie should be on her. She should be in the movie a lot, and somehow she's not. And then even the crazy guy, and then the crazy guy has an accomplice, crazy girl,
who is the best part of the movie.
And then we spent some time with the crazy girl, and the crazy girl getting rid of, like, the guy who watches the security.
Yeah, the guy who lets you in or out of the house.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, and then she does she gets on a piano and she plays a Celine Dion song, and then Samara Weaving and her have a duet.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense at all.
It's trying to be a horror comedy without understanding the comedy part.
There's no comedy here.
Except for one sequence. The wedding sequence at the end is pure gold.
Really? You like that?
I loved that.
Really? I'm just not... Mm-hmm. Yeah, by that time I just...
Right, you had long checked out by then.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Denver Nuggets basketball player or whatever has to come in as the bride.
Yeah, but then again, he gets stabbed.
Oh, yeah.
And then he seemingly comes back to life, full power, full strength. And then he takes care of the big guy.
Right.
Yeah. Which is, and in a way, it maybe makes me think this is horror comedy, but there's no horror. There's one scene where, I'm just going to say it, but the big guy, he gets his throat slashed and you see blood. But that's the only part in this movie that's really any kind of horror elements at all.
Right. The horror is trying to feed off of the setting itself of you're a famous actress, singer, etc., and you're being stalked by this crazy guy who gets into your house, and there was kind of the disturbing horror aspect of it. But it's light because at no point did I actually fear for Samara Weaving.
No,
right?
Not at all.
And
plot armor all the way.
Yeah, and so the movie really has a difficult time doing horror and comedy together. However, after you get through about 30 minutes of this movie, if you can make it, and Gene was not able to make it, he had to stop.
About 30 minutes is
it does pick up.
done.
I think the introduction of the crazy guy's little crazy accomplice girl, she's pretty fun in this movie. I liked the sequence where she was in the big knockdown, drag-out battle with the guy who hits the button to let the gate open or close to get you into the compound.
Yeah.
I liked just the way she at one point is saying, yeah, I know this Ray Nicholson guy is crazy,
Yeah.
but he's living in his own movie, and I want to be part of his movie. And that Gene and I both have worked, and I still do, with people that have situations
Yes.
like this, that this is their reality, and you hear them talk about, or you do have conversations about how these people are starring in their own movie. They're the star of their own movie, even though it is so detached from what's really happening, but in their mind, it really is happening. And so they're very complicated people to actually work with to try to get them on the healing pathway. And so, like I said, this movie is dealing with stuff that could be really serious, and in a really more serious horror film, you could have some pretty good stuff here. However, this movie doesn't do any of that, and it doesn't really play up those aspects of it. However, I have to also say Samara Weaving is an absolute gem, and I'm going to point out the one scene where this is why Samara Weaving is more than just a pretty face, right? She is an actress through and through. The sequence where they have her locked in the recording booth.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned with Azrael, where she can convey significant amounts of story and emotion without having to speak. And that to me is a key element of a quality actress. Well, and the Ray Nicholson character, he's got her trapped in there and he's talking all this crazy stuff. And she doesn't respond at all except facially, where you can see the revulsion, the horror, and even on some level, the planning of what she's going to do to get out of this situation. And so I just still think Samara Weaving is one of the great kind of unsung actresses out there. And at some point, she's going to get a role that's obviously not in the horror genre, where she's going to demonstrate that to everybody else, because I love it when an actress or an actor can convey the stuff that she can convey without having to tell you, right? There's no point where she's like, oh, I'm so scared or anything like that, like lesser actors or actresses will do. She shows it to you in just her facial and her physicality and how she moves and things. And so I really like her. I agree with Gene that this needed to be more. I needed more Samara Weaving in my little Samara Weaving movie for sure, because this is really more focused on the Ray Nicholson character.
And you don't like that guy, and after a while you just get tired of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole sequence where he's in the pool. It's like, what? Why am I looking at this guy?
Right.
What's the point there?
Right. Well, and it's all about he's starring in his own movie there, so he's doing all this stuff, but we didn't need to see that. And another big problem with this movie, though, is there's a whole sequence where Samara Weaving is upstairs, supposedly getting ready for her big wedding day with this Ray Nicholson guy, and Ray Nicholson is downstairs with the rest of his crew, basically. Why would they do that? Right? It takes way too long. There's no real interaction at all between Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson for, I don't know, was that like 15 or 20 minutes?
A long time. Like I said, she's not in the movie.
You're right. And so it just is a really weird way this movie plays out. But I don't hate it. Because after that 35-minute mark, it does start to move a little better and stuff starts to happen.
I'm rolling my eyes.
And so it's not, I mean, I understand why it was a day and date release. Here it is in a few theaters and here it's on streaming, because it did remind me of a movie like The Monkey, where why am I sitting in a theater watching this? I would have had the same reaction had I been sitting in a theater watching Borderline, because it really is fine to watch at home if you choose to watch it. It does not need to be seen at the theater. It's not Godzilla -1 or something where, okay, we have to see it at the theater. It's this little tiny movie that, Netflix original kind of setup, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then I mean, also a fatal flaw of the movie, I think, is it just gets boring. You know, you're just like, what am I doing? It's just
Yeah.
not entertaining.
The
you
first
know?
35 minutes are definitely boring.
Yeah, yeah. So I wish it had made the guys had made. Well, it's the writer of Cocaine Bear, so there's no way you're going to get a serious thing. Although that whole interplay during the wedding, there were like interplays of scenes where the guy he is kissing, the Denver Nugget basketball player,
Right.
but in his mind, it goes to another scene where he's actually kissing Samara Weaving, and actually she's happy, so they go back and forth between the two realities. So, like you said, if they had more of that, but that's a much more serious kind of movie,
Right.
And we can tell that this is not in that director's radar.
No.
But if you're gonna make a movie that's funny, I think you just have to concentrate on your characters and put them in just funny situations. I think of Zombieville. It's just funny because you're focusing on your characters and you put them in like cool situations.
Right.
Like the Eisenberg character is when he's getting gas and he gets to zombies are chasing him. But then he's just running around in a circle because he knows he can outrun them. And he just is running in a circle just to buy himself some time. And he knows that the zombies are totally brainless and they'll just follow him in the circles instead of like cutting him off, So they'll just go in the circles until he gets time and then he gets in his car and that's good.
Right.
Situations like that, or in that same movie, the whole thing between him and the actress, and I have to put her hair behind her ear. That's in a way the goal of my life, and it's just funny because it's just it's this thing with him and as he's growing as a person, and but they're surrounded by the destruction of the world, and that's all they can care about.
Right.
It's just funny, but this movie just
it definitely needed to go more. Okay, forget the comedy part. Just go straight horror and really take it more seriously than it does.
It would have been better.
Well, and the fact is, Samara Weaving has proven time and time again now that she can handle super serious if she needs to.
As a role,
no question.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I will point out though, and sorry Samara Weaving, because her husband is the director of this movie. So I think I think she was doing him a real solid by, okay, it's your directorial debut, so I'll be in your movie.
Okay.
But she maybe needed to pass on this one or say, hey, honey, let's make it more serious, it just doesn't play right. Samara Weaving is excellent in this film, as I mentioned before. But we do have to also say, I'm surprised her husband does not understand what we look for in Samara Weaving movies, which is at what point does she get covered in blood? She only got a little bit of blood on her in this movie.
A little bit. She got more lighter fluid on her than anything. It's like, yeah.
So a little disappointment there because you always have your little, what's the high-low on when she's going to get covered in blood, and she didn't really get any on her until about the 52-minute mark.
You're way checked out by then.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Gene, anything more to say about Borderline?
No, I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, I do not hate it like Gene does. I am concerned about the mistakes made with just the opening scene. You never want to open your movie like this one opens.
No, you just don't. It's just, it's slow and it's ponderous.
Yeah,
it's just come on.
Where is this movie going to go?
Yeah, you want to go horror comedy. I guess you got to go back to Zombieland. How that movie opens. It opens and it's just crashing, and it's and again it's horror comedy. It shows these little girls in these little dresses, but they're little zombie girls, and that's just kind of
and
funny,
and Zombieland was also
and they're chasing you, and they're like,
because he was doing the whole backstory on all his rules and all that, so it really was a nice entry into that world. And this one doesn't quite understand how to get you entered into the world, and it is an off-putting scene, no question about it. I was like, oh, what have I gotten myself into?
On Zombieland?
No, in Borderline, and it does pick up a little bit, especially when Samara Weaving is on screen. I was disappointed that she also didn't get to go full ass kicker like she does in a lot of the other movies we've watched.
She has this fight with the girl assistant, but it's somehow even.
Yeah,
and so she destroyed that girl.
So yeah, just a disappointment for sure. But Gene, any thoughts about next week?
Oh, I have no thoughts.
Yeah, well, you talked about the Bela Lugosi Dracula. I don't know if we want to go there or not, but
we've Draculaed out.
Something's going to happen next week for sure.
For sure, yep.
Hopefully it will be better than Borderline. But yeah, just a disappointment, and I really want Samara Weaving to get a role that she can really sink her teeth into.
That would be awesome. Yeah, and we're still Samara Weaving fans, so if you're watching this,
right, Samara, call us.
Yeah, call us. You're right. Yeah, I do have to say I didn't comb my hair, so it's kind of like I didn't see my hair's all messed up. My wife said I should comb my hair before I go on the show.
Well,
I'm just like, my hair is kind of like how I feel about the movie.
If you had loved the movie, well,
I would have combed my
hair. So maybe what we should do, if we both really love a movie sometime, although we rarely know that until we actually hit record, we'll come in suits or something.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, we will be back next week with something. Give us a comment if you have a specific movie you'd like us to do, because sometimes we are just grasping at straws. One of my favorites is a Thursday night, because we watch the movies on Friday and then do this on Saturday. We didn't even have a movie, and so it was just this random thing of back and forth on the text. What are we going to do? And then we figured out something. I don't remember.
Yeah, and then some guy requested something, and we
watched. Yeah, that was Quiet Place was a request.
Yeah, Quiet Place. Yeah.
So, and that was obviously a decent movie.
Yeah, and that's a solid horror.
But sure. Well, and as our audience knows, we've gone into the depths of movies like The Mutations and Silent Night, Deadly Night, but we've also gone to the highs of really important horror movies.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
We pretty much are up for anything. So anyway, we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.